Am I the only one who finds it the least bit ironic that you're watching a video about how to stop procrastinating while you're procrastinating right now? Surely not. Well, since you're here, we might as well go ahead and make this the most productive bit of procrastination that you've ever done. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Lifehack Show. I'm your host, Justin Aldridge, and today, you guessed it, we're talking about all things procrastination. Why do we do it, and how do we overcome it? But before we get into that, I want to tell you about a great resource that we've created for you here at Lifehack. You see, if you're somebody who has these big, grand goals, dreams, aspirations for your life, something that we support you in, procrastination is something you're going to have to kick to the curb. So we've created an assessment for you that's going to help you identify exactly why it is that you procrastinate and how you can overcome that. Click the link above or find it in the description below. Go take that assessment so that you can start overcoming that procrastination that is holding you back. And before we dive into talking about procrastination, I want to remind you, if you're enjoying our content, make sure that you go ahead and hit that like button, hit that bell so that you're notified each and every time that we put out new content, and subscribe to our channel. We want to be able to share our value to more and more people. And by you doing those three simple things, you allow us to achieve that. Now, with that being said, let's dive in. Okay, so before we get into the strategy of how to overcome procrastination, I want to talk to you about 3 reasons why people commonly procrastinate. Now, if we're being completely honest, there's probably a million reasons why people procrastinate. I know that I have a ton of different reasons why I procrastinate, and it's probably unique to our circumstances, our upbringing, our personality type. All of those different variables are going to play into why we most commonly procrastinate. But really, there's 3 reasons why I think most people can really agree with why they might procrastinate. The first one is that the task or the thing that we're doing is something that's out of alignment with who we are or something we just flat out don't enjoy doing. I know that you could probably think of a time where you had to do something, whether it was studying for a test in school or getting your laundry done or any sort of tasks that you had to get done, that quite honestly, the reason why you were procrastinating, not taking action, is because you didn't enjoy doing the task. You weren't excited about it. It didn't fire you up. So if you're somebody who finds yourself in that position where you know, if you're being completely honest with yourself, that you're procrastinating because the task is out of alignment with who you are, or it's just something you don't enjoy doing, you've got to ask yourself, is this a necessary task? Because if it's not, get rid of it. Don't sit there and worry about procrastinating when it's something you can just eliminate altogether. But if it is something that is necessary, it's something you have to do, well, then start asking yourself, how can I make this more fun? Or what is it that I can do to stop the procrastination? Going back to taking tests, for example, ask yourself, obviously, I know this is something I have to do, so how can I make this more enjoyable? Can I get a study partner? Can I start doing this at a different time of day, times where I'm more energetic, time where I seem to, enjoy this process a little bit more? Whatever that may look like for you, start asking yourself those questions to put you in a different frame of mind so that you can potentially lean into getting those things done to where you eliminate that procrastination. The second reason why people commonly procrastinate is because we've been taught to. If we look at the people who are around us, if they're not high achievers or if they're somebody who they commonly procrastinate, those things are passed down to us. And the closer they are to us, the more influence that they have on us, the more likely we are to adopt that procrastination behavior from them. So if you're somebody who can say that you are a chronic procrastinator, look at your circle of influence and ask yourself, are the people who are closest to me, are they procrastinators? And if not, then start to figure out who it is that's influencing you, that's creating that behavior inside of you. Chances are somebody within your circle of influence, your friends, your family, your loved ones, your teachers, somebody is modeling that behavior that you're adopting. And just like with anything related to success, you've got to make sure that you're putting yourself in the right environment that's going to be conducive to your success. So start figuring out who are those people who are modeling procrastination type behaviors and distance yourself from them, or just be aware when you're around them that you've got to make sure that you're starting to change those things. As we get into adulthood, we try to carry a lot of those habits and behaviors from our childhood that we learned with us. And if we're being honest, a lot of those aren't very beneficial for our adult lives. So you've got to make sure, you've got to discover who's been modeling that behavior and consciously be aware of that so that you can start changing it as you move forward. And the third common reason why people commonly procrastinate is because their perfectionist is coming out. Now, I'll be the first one to raise my hand and say that I am a recovering perfectionist. I know that that exists inside of me. I want everything to be perfect. Well, if you're that way, you've got to know that about yourself, because a common trait or a common symptom of being a perfectionist is that you procrastinate. You don't want to take the action. You don't want to do the thing unless you know that the end result is going to be perfect. But the reality of this life is nothing that we're going to do is going to be perfect. So you've got to get over those perfectionist tendencies so that you can start taking action. You can start moving forward. You can stop the procrastination and start moving closer to those goals, dreams, and aspirations that you have in your life. So now that we know some of the common reasons why people procrastinate, let's talk about some strategies, things that we can do to overcome that procrastination. Like I said, if you're somebody who has those big goals, those things that you want to accomplish in your life, you're gonna have to learn to combat procrastination. So I've got 5 strategies for you that are going to allow you to start kicking procrastination to the curb. Number 1, start breaking down your big tasks into smaller chunks. Part of the reason why people procrastinate is because we get overwhelmed. If you are somebody who is a high achiever, somebody who has really big ambitions for your life, chances are you set big goals. Well, if you set big goals and you start trying to take action on that entire goal at one time, it can become very overwhelming. So a very easy way to combat that is to break down your tasks into smaller chunks, all right? Procrastination is less likely to show up whenever we feel less overwhelmed. If we go into a task knowing that it's going to be something that's not going to take us as long, it's not going to take as much learning, or it's not going to take as much effort, whatever it may be, the resource that you're having to put out, chances are you're going to be much more likely to take action rather than procrastinate. So go back, look at your goals, look at your task, look at all the things that you have to do in your life and figure out, how can I break these things down? How can I make them a little more simplistic? How can I make them a little less overwhelming? And by doing that, you're going to find that you're going to procrastinate way less. Change your environment. That's the second thing you can do if you're somebody who struggles with procrastination. Environment is everything whenever it comes to achieving success. Your environment is composed of the people, the places, and the things that are most commonly around you. And if those things don't lend themselves to taking action and to doing so on a regular basis, you're going to be somebody who falls victim to procrastination. So if you are somebody who knows that you procrastinate, start analyzing your environment. Are there people around you who cause you to procrastinate? Is there a certain physical environment, a place that you're putting yourself in that causes you to procrastinate more often than other places? Are there things around you, your cell phone, for example, other things that you might have around you in your immediate environment that may cause you to procrastinate? You've got to become aware of those things, because when you do, then you can start to change them so that you're not having to really fight yourself on procrastinating, but you put yourself in this environment that is more conducive to taking action. Because what happens is when we procrastinate, it tends to cause these ill feelings inside of us. And when we start to feel that way, then we're less likely to take action anyway. But when you get yourself into a conducive environment, a place that makes you feel motivated and inspired to want to take action, it starts to stir up some positive emotions inside of us, making us much more likely to take inspired action, which is going to lead to the result that we want to create. So analyze your environment, start figuring out what are those things that are causing me to procrastinate, and then change them. The third thing that you can do if you're somebody who struggles with procrastination is to create deadlines and schedule them. If you go and you listen to anybody who teaches on success, a lot of times they will say that they can gauge the level of success that you're going to have based on looking at your calendar. If you don't have things scheduled in your calendar, how do you expect to achieve them? Because what are the things that we commonly schedule in our calendar? the most important things that we have going on in our life, right? Doctor's appointments, vacations, big momentous occasions that might be going on like weddings or baptisms or any other sort of celebration, holidays. We put all those things in the calendar, but when it comes to our goals, once we do like we talked about in step 1, we break down the goal and we chunk them down into smaller tasks. We don't take the time to schedule them. Well, if we don't take the time to schedule them, then it's hard to remember exactly what it is that we need to be doing. And any time that we have to put a whole lot of conscious effort into doing something, we're more likely to procrastinate. So a way to combat that is to make sure that you're setting deadlines and that you're actually getting those things scheduled in your calendar. Write them down. Open up the calendar app in your cell phone, whatever it is, get that thing scheduled. And when you have that deadline, it creates a sense of urgency inside of you. Goal setting 101 tells us that one of the key elements of setting a SMART goal is that it has to be time bound. There has to be some sort of deadline on the goal that you're setting. Otherwise, the goal is going to grow to fill the amount of space that you give it. Meaning that if you never set a deadline, the goal is just going to continue to stretch out and stretch out and stretch out. You're going to continue to procrastinate. You can see the correlation between the two. So when you set the deadline, it's like a barrier that you're bumping up against. You're telling yourself, I've got to make sure that I'm getting X, Y, or Z done by this time frame. So set that deadline and get it scheduled. That's going to create a sense of urgency, and it's going to require you to start taking action to be in alignment with the goals that you have for yourself. As a coach, one of my favorite things to do to combat any negative behavior or habit that we have in our life, but definitely procrastination, is to get an accountability partner. When you get an accountability partner, you're grabbing somebody, bringing them alongside of you and saying, hey, I need you to be here to support me in this thing. Now, a couple things that you want to keep in mind whenever you're finding an accountability partner. You don't want somebody who's going to take it easy on you. You want somebody who's going to actually hold you accountable to the standard, to the goal, to the expectation. When it comes to procrastination, you want somebody who's going to give you some tough love whenever you start to procrastinate. Somebody who's going to hold you accountable and remind you, hey, this is what you said that you wanted to achieve, and now you're procrastinating, you're not taking the action. It's time to make sure that we get in gear. So you've got to have somebody who can give you that tough love. But on the other side of that, you've also got to make sure that it's somebody that you respect enough to listen whenever they call you out, whenever you're procrastinating, and actually spur you into action. If it's somebody who calls you out on your procrastination and you don't take action, that's not a good accountability partner. Let's just be honest about it. So it's got to be somebody who has both. Somebody who can call you out, who can hold you accountable, and somebody you're actually going to listen to. Accountability is huge, okay? Any of us who have these big goals and dreams and aspirations for our lives, we all need accountability because our motivation's going to go down at times. We're all going to procrastinate. We're all going to have things that distract us. Life is going to happen around us, and we've got to have people, whether it's a coach, whether it's a friend, whether it's a parent, whether it's a spouse, whoever it is, you've got to make sure that you have somebody around you who is holding you accountable to the things that you say that you want to accomplish in your life. And then the last strategy for overcoming procrastination is to eliminate procrastination pit stops. Now you may be asking, Justin, what is a procrastination pit stop? Well, it's going to look different for everybody. But in general, what a procrastination pit stop is think about a race. If you're somebody who's ever watched NASCAR, they've got what they go into, which is the pit where they go and they get their car serviced. It's somewhere they have to go into frequently in order to get their car serviced so that it maintains itself throughout the race. Well, us as people who procrastinate, some more than others, we have common procrastination pit stops. We have those activities or those things that we do more often than other that come up regularly that cause us to procrastinate. So for a lot of people, it's things like pulling out your cell phone and scrolling. For other people, it may be watching TV or busting out their computer and checking their email. It may look different for you, but you've got to determine what are those common procrastination pit stops? What are those activities that I commonly turn to that distract my attention away from what it is that I'm supposed to be doing and that put me in that state of procrastination? Whenever you can figure those things out, you can proactively start to combat those things. So if it's a certain environment that is a pit stop for you, you can avoid that environment. If it is scrolling on your phone, you can download apps or create settings that are going to block you from being on your phone during certain productive time periods. Whatever that looks like, figure out what those pit stops are and then start to eliminate them so that you can start kicking procrastination to the curb. So there you go. Now you know why it is that people commonly procrastinate and exactly what you need to do to overcome it. Do me a favor, in the comments below, tell me which strategy most resonates with you and you think will help you to overcome and combat the procrastination that you've been dealing with. And before you go, I want to tell you about a great opportunity to join us in a community of like-minded men and women who are coming together to support and encourage each other in achieving your biggest goals that you may have for this year. Click on the link above or down in the description below to join us in this free Facebook community so that you can start to have the support, the accountability like we talked about, to go and start taking the actions and getting over that procrastination to achieve your biggest goals. With that being said, that concludes this week's video. Hop on over to lifehack.org for more great resources just like this, or stay tuned for the next video.